tell you the story of two schools. Both of them are in the state of Tennessee, but they have drastically different budgets. One is the University of Tennessee. The other is Tennessee State University. Both of these schools got their start as what we call land grant institutions. Back in the late 1800s, then President Abraham Lincoln signed a law that gave states federal land or cash to start land grant colleges. A lot of big universities got their start that way. My alma mater, Rutgers, is a land grant university. University of Missouri, land grant university. University of Georgia, same thing. The University of Tennessee was all white until 1961. Tennessee State University, though, is an HBCU, a historically black college or university. And it turns out that for decades, one of these schools wasn't getting its fair share. And you can probably guess which one of these schools it is. Records show TSU may be owed up to, wait for it, $544 million in land grant funding. The federal land grant program provides funding for certain research and teaching programs at land grant institutions. It typically relies on states to match however much money is granted. But a new report found that from 1957 to 2007, Tennessee didn't match funds for TSU, leaving its only public HBCU without hundreds of millions of dollars in funding. And here's the real kicker. During the same period, records show that the University of Tennessee not only received its full state match, but in some years received more than required. Our next guest says that funding disparity stings even more when you remember the historic connection between the two schools. TSU was founded because black students weren't allowed to enroll at the University of Tennessee. And he wonders why nearly a century later, when they get more, we can't even get our minimum. Joining me now is...
Yes, and joining me now is Hot Tub Tony. Welcome to the 4-1 Sports World Show once again.
What's going on, everybody?
Yes, sir. Hot Tub is in the building. And hey, you are the guy. We're going to talk about this today. Obviously we got the introduction there about Tennessee State University being shorted on their funds, land grants funds, and we're going to talk about what a land grant is um, and how all that's supposed to work. And let's dive into why Tennessee State has not received their funds and what should be done about it. All right, Tub, the floor is yours.
So we came about this story a couple of years ago. I mean, we've been following this story for what, 2 years now?
Yes, sir.
It's been an ongoing story, and the lead-in video was a little misleading when she said that TSU was owed from the state of Tennessee $500 million. That figure is only what what the state of Tennessee is admitting that they owe TSU. They admit that they owe TSU $500 million. There's a lawsuit by TSU, and it's spearheaded by Benjamin Crump, that they're saying by their accounting they're owed $2.1 billion. This lawsuit has been going on for the last 2 years. It came about towards the end of 2023. And that had been going on. That came about because mediation broke down between the state comptroller of Tennessee and TSU. Now, fast forward to today. Tennessee State University, the state of Tennessee came in January of last year, or 1 year ago, fired the entire board of TSU, fired the president of TSU, and installed their own board members and installed a new president. Now, the state does have power to do that. The justification that they used on that was that it was mismanaged. And judging from some of the cases, from some of the accounts that are coming out, there is a pattern of mismanagement that goes back decades by the university. But that mismanagement is compounded by the shortfall in financial assistance that was obligated to be given to TSU by the state of Tennessee. So it's a twofold problem: bad management
Mm-hmm.
and underfunding. Now, as of last year, around about October time frame, the story came out that said TSU, the new president of TSU, when they did their accounting and the new board came in and they were doing their accounting, they found out that TSU could not pay their bills. The state comptroller came in, and instead of saying, okay, well, we admit we owe you $500 million, so we'll just give you that, they chose instead to give them $30 million to cover $30 million to cover 1 month of expenses. And are now saying, the state comptroller is saying that before they give TSU another dime, they have to lay off their staff, which TSU has already done. And the new board that came in laid off 30% of their staff. They're running at as minimum management as they possibly can. And they're still saying, no, that's not enough. We're going to also not fund you any more money. We're gonna make sure that we want you to sell off your facilities. And that's a good segue into our next video, was showing what's the significance of the buildings that the state of Tennessee wants TSU to sell. So, Mr.
All
Ford,
right.
you got that video?
Yes, sir. Let's get it rolling.
So we have Jason Mumpower, who is the comptroller. He didn't really mince any words when it came to what are you doing with Dr. Glenda Glover. People have said in the comments, what about the Avon Williams building? Are they going to?
Well, that's a tricky one.
Well, see, and this is what I'm saying. Now we hear the state saying we may need to look at that as an option. It's highly sought after. I mean, it's downtown, it's prime real estate.
There are, I think, multiple people interested in purchase or long-term lease of all or part of the Avon Williams campus.
Sure, that should be part of the conversation, because if you don't have enough students to occupy both buildings, then that's something that we could potentially consider at the right price, and the right partnership to help offset some of that cost.
There's a lot of history in the Avon Williams building.
That building is incredibly tricky. There's a whole federal case based on that building. I don't know that it's going to be as simple as just being able to sell this building.
I mean, Mumpower is saying, he's saying a lot.
He's saying get it together before it's too late.
Doesn't make sense when your main campus is in such poor shape to own these surplus properties that are also taking upkeep and maintenance.
Basically saying if you don't get this in order, we're going to have to seriously think about how we keep TSU open.
Because the taxpayers of Tennessee are not called upon to bail out any other university, community college, TCAT in the state the way we've been called on to bail out TSU primarily.
Wow. You hear that? Saying that not to bail out TSU, but at the same time have underfunded TSU. So what's the significance here of the Avon Williams building? You still there? All right, hold on, y'all. We got slight difficulty here. Hold tight.
Imagine a fulfilling career as an orthodontic assistant that is fast, affordable, and convenient, that provides the freedom you desire. Welcome to the School of Orthodontic Assisting. As Georgia's only in-person, hands-on education center for orthodontic assisting with over 40 years combined experience, we understand the constant demand for experienced orthodontic assistants. By not taking the steps to gain the necessary education and hands-on experience, you risk missing out on a life-changing opportunity and the chance to secure a financially stable future.
That's why we created the School of Orthodontic Assisting. Our 8-week comprehensive program is designed to fast-track your career, equipping you with the skills and knowledge needed to become a highly skilled orthodontic assistant.
Once you graduate, you will have the opportunity to enjoy a fulfilling career as an X-ray certified orthodontic assistant. If you're worried about fitting the program into your busy schedule, we've made it easy for you. Once accepted, you simply pick the dates that work best for you, and we'll take care of the rest. Enrollment is limited, so don't miss out on the opportunity to transform your life and career. Act now and secure your spot in our next class.
Visit our website at gasoa.net to learn more about our program and to apply. If you're already on the website, click the Apply Now button to start your enrollment process. It's time to start.
All right, we're back. All right, so we got the technical difficulties out the way. The Avon Williams building. You heard the discussion there by Mumford, and he was basically, you hear him saying that it's not their responsibility to bail out the university. But it's kind of funny that it says that when they've been underfunding the university all these years, the state has, and actually overpaying for the University of Tennessee. But go ahead.
So the Avon Williams building. That building is part of a historic civil rights case from the 60s, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on the date. But that building is also sitting in downtown Nashville. And that is why they're pushing to sell that building so much. That building is worth not tens of millions of dollars, but potentially hundreds of millions of dollars because of the recent development that's going on in the city. So they're building up everything around it. And they want this building because basically this compound that the school owns is hindering their long-term plans for the city of Nashville.
Mm,
And that project that they're working on that's surrounding that building, like I say, could potentially be worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the long run to the city of Nashville. So that's why they're pushing to get this particular facility. Now, as the report just said, the state has given the school as of lately half of the money that they owe, $200 million. So that shows just how much they were in dire straits to begin with, where the $200 million is still not enough because all that did was upgrade facilities.
right.
And like I say, they have legal cases ongoing. The new board didn't, as of yet, hasn't dissolved the legal case. Hopefully they won't, but it's really looking like that's what the state comptroller, Representative Mumford, is pushing for. Now, during the same time, because we as we heard from 1957 to 2007, the state admitted to underfunding them $500 million. During that same period of time, they overfunded Tennessee State, the
Well,
University of Tennessee.
correct.
So that money that you shorted TSU, you gave it to Tennessee.
Right.
So now that what that does is makes that university just as complicit in this as the state of Tennessee itself. So they owe. And in a legal case, if they were to win the legal case, I'm pretty sure that is also part of the compensation package that they would be looking for from not only the state, but also the university, the University of Tennessee. So it's just a perfect storm of bad things that have happened, and this hasn't happened by accident. This happened by design. This has been a long-term push by not only the state of Tennessee, but every single state that has an HBCU. This thing is going on. The same
Yes,
kind of
sir.
incidents are going on.
That's right.
So
Yep.
it's not a matter of, oh, this is a one-off incident. No, this is orchestrated by the states and to a certain degree by the federal government because the federal government knows this goes on. The way the money is paid out from the federal government, when they give when you see them come up to the White House and accept the checks like they did when Trump and Obama and Biden were president, you saw the HBCU heads, the presidents coming up there to get the money for their respective HBCUs. That money goes into the HBCU collective, where it's distributed to every unit. It's supposed to be distributed to every university. That's not how the money is distributed. The federal government gives it to the states, and they leave it up to the states. Say, "Yeah, here's the money for your HBCUs." They don't have any oversight to where
Hmm.
or any policies that require the states to give them that money. All the federal government is gonna come back and say, "Well, we gave the money to you." No, you gave the money to the state. The state didn't give us the money. So that allows the federal government to be complicit in this
Mm-hmm.
theft, which it is. This is theft.
Yep.
It's
Give 'em an
allowing
easy
them,
out.
it's allowing them to be complicit in it and to basically throw up their hands and say, hey, I don't know what they're talking about, but we just gave them $300 million. We just gave them $3 billion. Or as Trump said when he was president the first time, I gave him $30 billion, which he did. That's the most money any president has ever given the HBCU system. He did that, to his credit. But without federal oversight of the states. And this is not relegated just to financial aid for universities. This is what happens across the board when federal money is given to the states. There is no federal oversight of it. So the states are allowed to do whatever they want to with federal funding. So you see this in a lot of programs that are set up that's supposed to be set up historically for Black Americans. But these programs go to everybody under the umbrella of DEI.
Yeah.
So that's
And
part of it. That's
right,
part.
right.
The states do
And
what they want to do. They distribute their money how they want to distribute it. But going back to the HBCU side of the house, so you're seeing this across the board. So this is theft. On top of that theft, you have bad leadership in a lot of these HBCUs, and that's the part. No, that's the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to address. Nobody wants to admit that our universities are ran badly. There are people in the administrations of these HBCUs that they are very complicit at how they're running these HBCUs. There's a lot of money that goes up missing in a lot of times, which leads us into the former president of TSU, Dr. Glover. Dr. Glover had a contract with TSU. Now, as we said before, they're struggling to pay their bills. The state comptroller says, we're not going to give you another dime until you void the contract with your former president, Dr. Glover. Dr. Glover had a contract that when she was forced out, she still retains her pension for, I think it's $1.6 million a year, plus access to the facilities, plus the parking space. Representative Mumford, the state comptroller, is basically saying, I'm not giving you a dime till you address that, because that is part of the mismanagement. She is part of the problem, which she is. And, a lot of people won't admit to that. I will admit to that. She is part of the problem. One thing that came out was that the incoming students in TSU, I'm trying to think how to refer. The financial aid department has had issues verifying the graduation of the incoming students. Not because they can't verify it, because the financial aid office has been cut so much that there's only one person in charge of the whole financial aid department. So she's having to go through and do these verifications, which are required by the federal government to receive federal scholarship funds. She has to verify, and there's paperwork that goes along with it, your diploma, your attendance, your grade point average, and a verification letter from the school, if I'm not mistaken. I think those are all the things that they need. Problem is, that takes time to get. So when asked by the new administration, the financial aid director was asked, how long would it take you to get all of these incoming students verified? Because we have school starting back in August. This was in March of last year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Her response was, it's going to take me to October to get this straightened out. They said, okay. The very next day after she said that, they fired her. Now, all those cuts that were made that put her in that position, most of those were made under Dr. Glover. So now this incoming administration, they were brought in. These are not educators. These are not people who've ran institutions before. These are business people. They've ran businesses. If I'm not mistaken, the new president, he was in charge of Pepsi. He was CEO of Pepsi at one time. So they're coming in with a business mindset into a educational arena. They have limited understanding of how these universities are supposed to work, how the federal government money is supposed to be allocated to these universities. So they're playing catch up. They're here basically to make cuts, to make the university profitable. That's supposedly the goal, is to make the university profitable and viable. I understand that. But even they say, now this is the state's installed people. These are their puppet regime. They're even admitting, hey man, this is we've been set up for failure for this. There's no way we can make this work without the money that you owe us. So it basically boils down to, this is a staring contest. The state of Tennessee is basically trying to force them into selling that land. This is
Right.
land theft. That's simple and plain, because there's a long-term goal by the state to develop that area. They want not only the Avon Williams building, they want the property that TSU sits on as well. Because
Yes.
that's what they're talking about doing. They're talking about closing a historically black college. That hasn't happened it's happened before, but it hasn't happened in decades, almost 100 years.
And so you can hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, yeah. And that brings us into because of course in a little while on the network, the college football guys are going to come in and talk about the All-Star games there for the pro prospects. But speaking of a guy who was a pro and who's actually an integral part of Tennessee State University, that's Eddie George. We're going to hear what he had to say too in reference to this, because he came in as the head football coach. I think he's been there 2 years now, and he's active as well in wanting to see what happens with the university, because he wants to see it succeed. And this is what he had to say to him, and we can talk about it.
And the bigger issue, the school is fighting is the money that's owed to them from the land grant money that's been owed to them for the last 50 years. And that's something that can be a huge shot in the arm for our institution. And we have to be responsible enough to then take that money and put it toward infrastructure, put it toward new buildings, put it toward a robust endowment that can continue to build, to grow, and to set up other funds that's going to deal with the maintenance and the everyday use for our student athletes, and to bring in the talent and teachers where we're well staffed. So there's an opportunity there. Tennessee State has the bones to be a really, it's a great institution, but now it's time to go from good to great, to eminence.
All right, hey man, he said some things in there that kind of correlate with what you were saying, right? Get the money,
Hmm.
and then be responsible with the money. And then in summary, Tennessee State, as he said, has the bones to be a great university. To me, that sounds like, this they're sitting on a gold mine right now. Well, this could become Tennessee State if they do things right, get their money, manage it the right way. Don't give up the buildings, et cetera, et cetera. This university has a chance to be, whatever you want to think about any other university, Notre Dame or any kind of school like that. Tennessee State has the infrastructure to be that. Um, but what are your thoughts on that?
Shout out to Eddie George, because this story wouldn't even be a story right now had Eddie George not sounded the alarm when he came into the institution.
Right.
He was the first one to bring attention to it. And that's what we see across the board with a lot of these HBCUs, is that there's an unwillingness by the administration, by the school, by the students. And I put emphasis on the students, because a lot of y'all out there romanticize HBCUs. Talk to a current HBCU student and see what they think about the facilities, about the institutions, about the teachers, about their financial aid department, and you will hear horror story after horror story. There are pages on TikTok that talk about this, and this is what pisses me off, because it's an unwillingness in our community to admit the shortfalls in our institutions. and there's a lot of shortfalls. You wouldn't have the Avon Williams building in question had you went to the state of Tennessee decades ago and basically had it preserved as a state landmark. I'm not even in education, and I could have told you, hey man, that's what we should do right there, because what that does is it protects the building and insulates it from anything that happens to the institution. That's a common sense move that should have been made decades ago. How many administrations came through there without that? Also, I get on the student body as well, because when you graduate from these institutions, how many of you are actually going back to them, not just for homecoming, not just to turn up, but actually giving money back to the institution? Very few of y'all. Harvard is Harvard, not because the federal government hold them up, not because they just the paragon of education. They're not. What makes Harvard Harvard is the fact that they graduate business owners, Fortune 500 company business owners. They graduate politicians, lawyers, and those people come back to the institution and give, once they make their fortunes, they come back and give huge endowments to the institution, which keeps everything running. That also allows them certain privileges within there. Get their dumbass kids who barely passed the SAT, but they got free admission because why? My parents bought a building. My parents donated $2 or $3 million. The problem is the quality of. Now I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna say this a little different. The graduates from our HBCUs are going on to be high-paid employees, and ownership is not taught at the university. It's put on the back burner. So yeah, they're preparing you for the workforce, but they're not preparing you like they used to, because they used to. There was a long stretch of time where our HBCUs were preparing the graduates to be business owners, because that was the only way you would survive. You weren't allowed to work in white institutions. There was a glass ceiling there for you, which is still in place, but it's a little more covert now.
Yeah.
So if you're not preparing if you're not preparing our children to be the next generations of captains of industries, then you're setting us up for failure. You're setting yourself up for failure, because now you're in a situation where you have to rely on the state, because you don't get enough endowment money coming in from your student body to hold you up. So
Yes, sir.
we have to take that responsibility. And I think there's a video about the Dr. Glover situation too. You have that?
Yeah. I think we ran that one.
Did we run it?
Yeah,
Okay.
but you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't think you know what? I don't think we played it. I think we went into the discussion. Let
Yeah.
me see if we can get that pulled up.
So we have Jason Mumpower, who is the comptroller. He didn't really mince any words when it came to what are you doing with Dr. Glenda Glover, the former president of TSU,
who has made out like a bandit while leaving only a legacy of dysfunction.
TSU officials told the state that they have since cut ties with Dr. Glover.
No parking places, no Titans football tickets, no building naming, completely finished.
I am. Yes.
Yes.
That's news to us. This is a woman who signed a contract with the prior board as part of her forced retirement, and she agreed that she would still do some work for TSU, just getting some sort of funding from donors that might be out there.
I'm still working. I'm not just saying I'm sitting at home doing nothing. I'm actually working, trying to do what I was asked to do.
It's just lawmakers had issues with the idea that you have a former president making $1.7 million when the school itself only had $5 million to start the semester.
We filed an open records request with Tennessee State University for the contract. They denied our request because they said that the paperwork did not exist. I know that you've talked to Dr. Glover about the ins and outs of her contract, but we have not laid eyes on the actual wording. And now that they have cut ties with Dr. Glover, they anticipate litigation.
Well, it's because Dr. Glover has said that she has no intention of giving up this contract and giving up the money that she feels she is owed. Dr. Glover didn't mince any words either.
No.
You know,
These antics about I'm going to advance you this. Advance me of money you owe me? How ludicrous can you be?
she was referring to this money that TSU has been underfunded.
And I think that's where Sexton did not call her out specifically, but said that the Governor Haslam administration and the Governor Bill Lee administration have given more to TSU than any of the other 4 generations of governors before them. And that would have been during Dr. Glover's tenure.
Governor Lee has actually increased TSU funding, operational funding, in the 6 years by over $10 million. People can say sufficient or not sufficient, but over the last 14 years compared to 32, I think that's worthy of a news story of how much money has gone to TSU.
Yeah, don't try to spend that on us. Do not try to spend that. Just because you starting to give a little money don't mean jack. I mean, the bottom line is let's get this 500 million, this 500 billion. Let's get all of it.
So
Just 'cause you,
that's hilarious. That and I saw the first part. I did not see that ending. That is hilarious that you want credit. Well, we gave you more money. Ain't you happy? Ain't you niggas happy? We gave you more of the money that we really should have gave you in the first place. You should be grateful. This is the attitude of this, the audacity, the
yeah.
caucasity of the state of Tennessee to say that shit. That's laughable. Now let's deal with Glenda Glover. Dr. Glover, you mismanaged. You did. Now you did. She made some positive moves. I will give her that, because the lawsuit and even the actual fact that they were even owed this money came out under her administration. The lawsuit came out under the administration. But you also fired Eddie George. And you did that because he brought attention to this whole situation. Had you allowed him
Oh,
to, yes, make those comments and
well,
say, yes, this is what we owe. I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, did you say Eddie George?
Yeah.
Hold on, and he's still there, right?
Is he still there?
Yeah, I think he's still there.
Okay. I know they were talking about firing him when he was speaking on the whole situation. They
Yeah,
shut him up real quick.
yeah,
Okay.
he's been more quiet on the situation. Yeah. But
Part
he's still there right now.
part of that was because of her. There was a lot of pushback from the institution. So I was wrong on that,
Yeah,
sir. But there
that's
was a lot
okay.
of push. There was a lot of pushback from the institution about that when he started to come out and verbally say the quiet part out loud.
Correct.
She was complicit in that, and that's what the problem I keep telling everybody about with these HBCUs. They want to. Hey, this is inside business. Let's keep family business in house. We don't talk about it to the outside where we don't put. If it wasn't coming through media outlets, because the young man the black guy that reported on the situation, he's a reporter out of Tennessee. He's been on this case from start to finish. We brought attention to this case. This is not major platforms, not major news outlets that are bringing this attention. These are small platforms like these that are
Right.
following these cases.
Mm-hmm.
And this ain't the only. This is the most egregious case in the HBCU system, but it's far from the only one. Dr. Glenda Glover, you were fired. You were forced into retirement. Does she have a contract? Yes, she has a contract. Whoever the board members were that agreed to that, you're a damn fool. If you knew you had these shortfalls and you promised her a long-term contract to force her out, you let her sign a long-term contract, which allows her to retain that $1.7 million a year on a consultant basis.
Wow.
That allows her to still have access to the facility, that allows her to still get football tickets. Yes, that is a concern. That's not a concern of the state of Tennessee, though. That's not the state's business. Yes, this is a
Right.
state school. Yes, the states do ultimately run every state school in their state. Yes, I will agree to that. But that particular hanging point, you're using that as your hanging point to say we're not giving you another dime of the money that we owe you
Oh,
because of you because you won't void this contract. They can't void that contract. That's going to go into litigation. So it's a lot of lawsuits that are going to come out of this. And I agree. She shouldn't be given that. She should be forced to give up that contract. But that does not negate the fact that you can't hold this money that you owe the institution because you don't like the fact that that happened. This is an example of what had been termed. Shout out to the new black media who coined the term "I'm white and I say so." This is a perfect example of "I'm white and I say so." Yes, what is "I'm white and I say so"? That's when there is no logical explanation to what the white people are doing. There's no justification. So their only justification is to say, "I'm white and I say so." I can do this because I'm white and I say so. And that's what's happening here. You know you owe it. We're not even talking about the $2.1 billion total
Right.
that you owed us. Everybody keeps harping on this $500 million. That's just what they admitting to owe by the federal government's accounting, by the institution's accounting, by outside auditors' accounting. So these three different accounts that say, no, it's not $500 million, it's $2.1 million. 2.1 billion with a B.
Billion. Yep.
So it's three different agencies that are not connected to one another that are all coming in and saying this $2.1 billion is owed. So the fact that we're haggling over half a billion dollars to $500 million, that they're saying, no, we don't owe you 2.1. We just stole half a billion. We just stole 500 million. Because that's what happened. Let's use words matter. Yes, let's put the proper words in place. You were admitting that you stole money from TSU. You've already admitted that. But you're saying I only stole 500 million. I don't owe the rest of that because this is what I'm admitting that I stole from you. Don't you believe me?
Crazy, man.
No, we don't believe you. I put the lion's share of the blame squarely on the state. But this has been going on for 50 years. So at no time during this 50-year period did any of the prior administration, because Dr. Glover hadn't been the president of TSU that long. So I can't, and even that board hadn't been there that long. I think they've all been there maybe a decade. What about the 2 or 3 boards prior to that? This has been allowed to happen. This is a snowball effect. Because if you'd have nipped it in the bud, I understand. It started in the 50s. You couldn't nip it in the bud in the 50s. The laws weren't set up for us to do that, nor the 60s. What about the 70s? What about the 80s? What about the 90s?
The 2000s, the 10s. Yeah.
So
It
that's
should have
why
been handled, man.
it should have been handled. But what happens a lot of times in our institutions is that people come in and say, well, they ain't looking at the money and the state's stealing money. Let me dip into that pot and take me a little something. I ain't taking that much. I'm taking a couple 100,000. And that happens. We have to be honest about that. But that does not negate the fact that the original stuff and the bulk of the money that's owed is owed by the state of Tennessee, and they need to pay what they owe.
And Tub, what is the next move, man? What in your like if you was to draw out the game plan to get this money back, what would be the moves, man? What would be the
Outside,
moves to get it done?
unfortunately, we're in a situation where we don't have a favorable Supreme Court, a favorable state Supreme Court, because this is going up to the actual Supreme Court. This is not, the state of Tennessee is not going to willingly give up the money that they owe. They're going to do this kicking and screaming. And I don't see it within the next 4 years playing out in our favor, unfortunately. They say, oh, well, it's the Republicans. See, that's the reason why the Republicans. Let us not forget that this has happened over the course of 50 years. Democrat and Republican administrations could have took up this mantle. The Justice Department could, because this is a theft on a massive scale. The Justice Department could have came in and stepped in and done some on the criminal side. have checks and balances within the federal government to handle situations like these. And no administration, including the last one. So this is not a Democrat and Republican issue, because I know y'all like to spin that into that. We're not doing that, because it started under the Biden administration, and the Biden administration didn't do anything about it. So I don't have high hopes that the Trump administration would do anything. So outside of letting this play out on the legal process, I don't see any other recourse. This should have been handled. We're at the end of what should have been handled a decade ago, 2 decades ago. And that goes to something I said in the previous episode. If our institutions no longer serve the people they were created for, Black Americans, then it's time to let those institutions go. That's a somber close out to this. It's very somber. But maybe this will be the wake-up call to the other institutions to show them, get your shit in order. Start letting lawsuits now, because as we saw, and I think you have a video for this too, you're seeing this problem in Georgia as well. And you got 3 institutions in Georgia suing the state of Georgia for what, $600 million?
Well, you definitely have one right now in Fort Valley State, and we can run that right here so people can hear it.
Let's run.
If you go to Fort Valley State University in Georgia, or just care about higher education here in the Peach State, this info might be interesting to you. 2 federal officials this week sent a letter to Georgia Governor Brian Kemp saying that the state of Georgia has historically underfunded the HBCU Fort Valley State University to the tune of $603 million over the last 30 years. I'm Vanessa McCrae, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution's higher education reporter. Like and follow for more higher ed news. Here's a copy.
So there you go, $603 million. The Fort Valley State University is right there in the middle of the state of Georgia.
Over the last 4 years. So this is even worse than the TSU situation.
Yeah.
$600 million in 4 years. So, and it's 2 other, I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, because this story is also 2 years old. It's 2 other institutions under that lawsuit. So that whole $600 million is not just the Fort Valley State. It's to that collective of universities that's under that. Now, we all know the big 4 up here in Atlanta get a lot of money. They're underfunded as well, but they get a lot of money from industries such as Coca-Cola, Delta, Home Depot, because their proximity to the city of Atlanta. They're sitting in the city of Atlanta. So there's a lot of eyes in an all-black city with an all-black city council, with black mayor after black mayor after black mayor. So there's a big push for, and it started with Maynard Jackson in the 70s, that you're going to pay your fair share to our institutions. So the city of Atlanta, the institution, the HBCUs in the city of Atlanta benefit off of proximity, but it leaves the institutions in the rest of the state out to fend for themselves. This is another issue that I have with the HBCUs and their unwillingness to work as a collective. Because it shouldn't be individual institutions filing lawsuits. You should have a collective fund that is funded by each and every HBCU, no matter if you feel you're underfunded or not. You should be putting money into a pot for a legal defense fund to address these issues as a collective, not on a case-by-case basis. I'm not in education. I'm not in these institutions. I'm not no big-time brain. I didn't even finish college. But I'm smart enough to know that there are steps you should be taking as a collective. Because if collectively you come out and say this, it leaves more credence and gets more attention than it is when you're doing it on an individual basis. Are y'all bringing this up when you're going into the White House, administration after administration, taking photo op pictures so they can say that they did something for the black community? Well, we gave you money to your HBCUs. You're allowing yourself to be used as a wedge issue to disenfranchise the rest of us. That's a problem. You have allowed yourself to be this. Instead of saying, no. Y'all ain't doing shit for us either. Put them on blast. Name names. People don't like to name names either. We saw that when Dion came into Jackson State. Dion made a record about it. Dion did say, hey man, there's a lot of stealing going on. Name names. Ian Reeves, when he came in, he said it's a lot of stealing going on. It's a lot of misappropriation going on. Name names. Because if we don't have a name to put with the theft, then it just looks like we just bitching and moaning because we got fired. Or I'm just bitching and moaning because shit ain't going my way. Name's a name. Who in the administration is stealing? Who's hiding the fact that we owe this? Because the case in Fort Valley State, that was brought by the student body and alumni. That wasn't the institution that brought that about.
Right.
These are the problems that we got to admit. And like I said, I go back to my closing point because I know you got to go into your next program. If you're not willing to do right by the people you were built to serve, you weren't built to serve people of color. You weren't built to serve every minority group, even though HBCUs are bringing in different minorities at record numbers in the last decade. You weren't meant to serve them. You weren't built to serve them. You were built to serve the interests of Black Americans. Emphasis on the Black Americans. And you haven't. You haven't done that for about 50 years. You haven't done that since integration.
Right.
So you can't turn around and then complain, well, the state ain't giving us what we're supposed to do. You just now letting us know a half a century later, you letting us know that this been going on. And you want to galvanize the Black community behind it. What reason have you given as an institution to galvanize the Black community to get behind you? Most Black people don't go to HBCUs. The people that big up the HBCUs the most are people who've never been there. If you notice, it's an eerie silence from the people who actually went and graduated from HBCUs. Oh, they love the homecomings. We all do. It's one big party. Party, party, party. You talk to some of the people that's in HBCUs right now, what they talk about is the camaraderie, the friendship, the cohesiveness of Black folks in the parties. But when you start talking about, well, what you feel about the facilities? Oh, they trash. What you feel about the financial aid department? It's trash. What do you feel about
Yeah.
your living conditions in your dorm? They're trash. What do you feel about your prospect to the recent graduates? What do you feel about your prospect? Do you feel that the institution prepared you for the working world? No, it's trash. So the institution is trash and it's a good party. Give me a fucking school with no party that prepares my people to take the reins and control our own destiny. Give me that over a fucking party. I'm tired of fucking partying. As Black folks, we do too much goddamn partying. And that allows a lot of this bullshit to occur because you took your eye off the fucking ball. We shouldn't even be scraping for Ben Crump to do these fucking cases. Ben Crump is an ambulance chaser. He's not a civil rights lawyer. He's becoming one out of necessity because we don't have anything else. But he's a personal injury attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Where's our
Yeah,
black
man.
legal class? Where's our black legal class? We
See,
all
that's
about.
what you
Go
and
ahead.
that's
I'm
what you
sorry.
talking about as far as what's next, right?
Yeah.
Put together a black legal team. And I like what you also said about collective, right? Because think about University of Alabama and their football program. They have this collective. Remember Nick Saban was talking about the collective and all this stuff, and he would go run into them. So when he needs more money, if they lose a game, you know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
so they can pull in a new recruit. And that's what they're doing. They're working as a collective. It's the same type of mentality that we should have for our culture. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
As a overall collective, even if you did not attend one, or even if you did, even if you are, you're just a fan of the institutions, if you're a lawyer, if you are, educator, whatever it is, whatever part of the circle you are, we should be collectively, shouting to the hills, collectively getting this done. You know what I'm saying? Just like what we're doing here. This is our part of helping resolve it is by bringing awareness to it. You know what I'm saying? Because nobody else is up right now doing this. You know what I'm saying? On a Sunday morning talking about this. So we're doing our part, and if everybody do a small part and work collectively, we can get some stuff done. We
Just like
have we have the influence, Hot Tub. We have the influencers to make this it just started with just Tennessee State. We have the influencers across this country that if we say you better take care of this or else, people will take care of it. Think about what happened with the Washington Commanders during the COVID time. After that, what happened up in Minnesota with the unfortunate killing there. Look at how everything started changing real quick. Now that name was supposed to be changed decades ago. All of a sudden they can flip and they can go from Redskins to Commanders just like that. Snap of a finger. There wasn't that. It was the pressure put on that you had to do it now, and we're not applying enough pressure.
what now you just touched on something, and now you didn't spark something else that we might have to expand off of.
Yes, sir.
We had no dog in that fight with the Washington Commanders' name,
Yep.
but yet our struggle for George Floyd's death was used to rally
Yep.
support to change the name for the Native American community, the red Native American community,
Hmm.
to get that name changed. Our struggles are justified. Our struggles are the only group of people, and I say this again, the only group of people in America who have a valid grievance in this country are Black Americans, not immigrants, because you can go home. You weren't invited here, you broke the law to get here, you can go home. You have a home country that will fight for you. We don't have that. Some were brought here, some were already here, but we were all forced to work unpaid labor. We suffered the greatest atrocities in human history. No other group of people. You show me another group of people who had their kids fed to alligators, who were lynched, who were hung, who were raped, who whole basis of the medical society was based off the torture that you did to our bodies. So we are the only group of people in this landmass of North America that have a legitimate grievance with this country. Yet our struggles are used to benefit other groups of people. That stops.
Yep.
And that kind of, I'm going to end mine on this. We're not fighting for immigration. We're not fighting for your LGBT rights. We're not fighting for anybody else's rights. Our fights from here on out as a Black collective, as a Black community, should be to fight for ourselves. We done fought enough for everybody else. We don't owe anybody else nothing but an ass whooping. John Henry Clark said that 40 years ago, and I agree with that totally. We don't owe you anything. Our days of fighting for everybody and everybody's rights is over. Let's fight for ourselves. If this fight got to start with these institutions, it starts here. But part of that fight is to admit when the institution has not served our needs. And if it's not going to serve our needs going forward, then it can go to. Most Black lawyers come out of the HBCUs. Oh, yeah, we champion that. I hear that all the time. But what I don't hear is that most Black lawyers that do graduate from the HBCUs are ambulance chasers. They
Right.
taking the most menial cases because they have to pay them student loans off, or they're working for white firms. Where's the Black firm that's saying, I'm gonna take this much percent of these Black graduates, these Black lawyers, and employ them, and we're gonna take on all of these cases that have historically plagued Black America that we hadn't gotten justice for, and getting that compensation. We don't have any Thurgood Marshalls anymore. The only two names of note that we can name are Lee Merritt and Ben Crump. And that's sad. That is very fucking sad. So like I said, if these HBCUs are not going to put out what we need as a community, the professionals that we need a community, let them go. Let them go. And to the rest of them, maybe you pull your heads out your ass and work together.
There it is. Hey man, we got to get somebody to help spearhead this entire thing, and we're still gonna try to get that gentleman on down from the like the ones that we got the clips from. Still working to try to get him on too, man. So um, hopefully he can get some things worked out so he can come on and help us out and we can dive into it again. Because
Yeah,
hey, it's
he
not
does
going to
that
change
really
until
well.
we get it out there. Yeah, yeah, I love the reporting. So, man, that's it, man. Well, I guess we'll, got to get ready to get in the other studio and talk college football. We're gonna talk about these pro prospects. There's even an HBCU prospect that was in the East West Shrine game from Alabama A&M offensive lineman. They said he's been doing great work, and also Chennis Berry, head coach at South Carolina State. He was on the coaching staff this week, so he
Oh,
had
word up.
he spent a lot of time with some NFL coaches this week. And I heard he was up in your area, up in Atlanta, about a week or two ago recruiting, and he pulled a couple players out of Atlanta. So he's sending them over to Orangeburg, South Carolina. So we'll see what's going
I'm
on
so
there, man.
sorry for him. I'm so sorry for him because ain't nothing in Orangeburg. I'm here to tell y'all recruit. I'm glad you went to HBCU. I'm sad for you because it ain't shit out there.
Good, you can stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Tub. Well, look, we'll talk about it, and we'll see you probably we'll probably see you out there, chiming in. So, take care, and we'll get back together and get on our next topic because it is Black History Month. So, I'm curious about us maybe talking about some of the, historical. Hey, we can talk about some of those historic Black quarterbacks because the Super Bowl's coming up in another week.
Before we leave out, I want to leave out with a Black History fact of the day. And excuse me for a minute, this kind of last minute, but I'm gonna hit
Go
you with
ahead.
it anyway. Our Black History person of the day is Gerald Lawson. Jerry Lawson. He's a Black American engineer and pioneer of the home video game console. He did that in 1976. He led a team of developers to develop the Fairchild F, the first gaming console with interchangeable cartridges. His work is considered revolutionary and paved the way for modern gaming systems like Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation. So all you gamers out there, black, white, and everybody else, you owe your whole, you like to play PlayStation, you like to play Call of Duty, you owe that to a black man, Gerald Lawson. That is today's Black History person. Black History fact of the day.
Oh, very good, Hot Tub. And I think before we roll, since you did bring him up, let's give a visual to him, so that he can get even more credit here for anybody who views our episode over the next uh, course of this week, because people be watching our episodes all week, and there he is right there,
That's
and as
black
you
and
can see
venom right
there,
there.
yes sir. And look at those
Don't
cartridges, man.
don't ever let anybody tell you black people haven't invented or we're not the most inventive people. Our inventions impact the world. And our inventors are still inventing to this day. So I try to focus less on the inventions from the 1800s and pull them more into more recent history. This was in a lot of our lifetimes that this man brought this about. He brought what he created, brings joy to millions of people right now. And for a lot of white kids to say nigga on when they playing Call of Duty. But you wouldn't have the ability to do it if it wasn't for this man.
And that's Jerry Lawson. All right. Well, Hot Tub, that's awesome, man. I appreciate the knowledge that you just dropped there. I will admit, I grew up playing video games, and I gave it up, as an adult. I just had to make that choice. But I played so many video games in my lifetime, and I'm gonna pay homage to them as well. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that. Because I got some great memories playing Enduro and Pitfall, and you know, I'm taking it back on you now.
I was
With
Mike Tyson. I was
Mike
Mike
Tyson
Tyson
Punch Out.
Punch Out.
Yeah, there you go. I couldn't wait, man. When I finally beat Tyson, that was a moment in history. But yeah, man. So all that good stuff, man. Double dribble.
Tecmo Bowl
Oh man, come on now. You gotta
with
stop
Bo
now.
Jackson.
Oh man, you can't stop Bo or Marcus Allen. How about that? Both of them was in the backfield.
But they both unstoppable.
Yeah, yes, sir. All right, man. Great nugget there, man. And if you like our takes, which we sure you do, make sure you go out there and comment and like, subscribe, and share. Because sharing is caring. All right, Hot Tub. We out of here, man. So for Hot Tub and Mr. 401, everybody have a great remainder of your day. Tune in for our college football show at 10:30 Eastern AM. All right, we out of here, man.
Peace.